dude just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Monday. Monday after a long weekend. Monday after the 4th of July. Monday, but it's still Meatloaf Monday. So hit it, man.
I think I'll try the meatloaf sandwich.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, meatloaf.
What is it? I'm only asking in case I have to describe it later to a doctor.
Look, it's nutritious. It's delicious.
Made out of meat. Add ketchup if you want. I couldn't care less.
Indeed. Meatloaf Monday. And oh, by the way, pushing buttons on the board, back home to us after his world travelers, just the escapades in Europe. JP, hey, man.
Howdy.
Good trip?
It's good. Yes, it was a great trip. The jet lag / time change is kind of kicking my butt today, but it's other than that, it's good to be back.
All right, we got to find time during the show to hear anecdotes of your stories.
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
I mean, you've already told me the one about your dad becoming a hero in a restaurant for tipping like an American.
Oh yeah, tipping is not the same over there apparently. It's crazy.
Nonetheless, we're glad you're back, man.
Glad to be back.
Good show laid on for you. Coming up at the beginning of hour number 2, Katherine Robertson is calling in. Katherine Robertson is currently a candidate for Attorney General for the state of Alabama. Katherine Robertson, by the way, has a long conservative street cred. She's been on staff with the Alabama Policy Institute. She's been Attorney General Steve Marshall's senior advisor for the last, I think, 8 years. But the bottom line is Katherine Robertson is also now running for AG herself. So we'll talk to her at the beginning of hour number 2. And then there's still a triple dipper, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, in conjunction with our conversation with Katherine Robertson, we'll talk about some law and order. Law and order, that's right. Things are happening right now, even as we speak. There are major roundups going on. There are efforts underway. There are sting operations. We're going to talk about it. Law and order, that's number 1, the Triple Dipper. And then number 2, the America Party. So apparently Elon Musk is intent upon forming his own political party. We'll talk about that. What does it mean? Is it going to work? I mean, who's for it? By the way, who says they want to be a part of it? And what will it do to both liberals and Republicans or conservatives? Yep, I'll talk about all of that. The America Party, question mark, that's number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, we're going to talk about what happened in Texas and what is still going on right now. I mean, both my screens right now in the studio wall are filled up with images of the flooding in Texas of an unbelievably epic scale. If you've seen some of the time-lapse video of what took place in just a mere hour of water just rising 15, 20, 25, 30 feet high. Right now, we're a body count well over 90. We'll talk about all of that. And I'm calling this after the storm because now it's the what now phase. After the storm, number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys that the Rightside Way is every single day brought to you by attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, attorney at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. He is a longtime conservative. And oh, by the way, he's your daily sponsor of the Rightside Way. And I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a few minutes. All right, let me just start off by saying, like many of you, I remember where I was on 9/11 as the events of the day unfolded in New York City, Washington, D.C., and in the fields of Shanksville, Pennsylvania. It was a devastating day. It was a day filled with dread and uncertainty. It was a day that ended lives, destroyed property, and launched a 20-year war. It was also a day of coming together. As a nation, I distinctly recall the sense of national unity that galvanized the American spirit that day. There was a sense that politics mattered not and that nation mattered all. New York City was all of us. The Pentagon, that was our house. And the stories of calls from the final plane that went down to Pennsylvania with the heroes collaborated to say, let's roll, as they took down their own hijackers and saved countless other lives doing so. I'm telling you, man, it was something. Images of firefighters raising the flag at ground zero. I recall seeing crisscross contrails in the air over Alabama as fighter jets took to the skies to provide overwatch. One of my closest friends was in D.C. as the plane roared low over the building he was meeting in, and he ran with others down unfamiliar streets only to be taken in by complete strangers and given lodging in their home. It was all of us. It was a disaster, but it was coming together. It was a clear example of what can happen when a people pull together and determine that the disaster will not be the final word. or that grief will not be our downfall, or that loss will not be the final reckoning. The post 9/11 American spirit was something to behold. And while I despise the acts that led to it, I love the fact that we had that sense of national unity afterwards. That was a national disaster, but the scale alone is not the reason why people rallied. People rallied to each other after 9/11 because that's what we do. That's who we are. That's how we act. Well, this past weekend, in the midst of summer fun and celebrations, another tragedy struck, and it might not have been the scale of 9/11, but for the people who were affected directly, it was. Flash floods struck the Guadalupe River region of south central Texas over the weekend. If you've seen the reports, then you already know that the waters rose to epic heights in just an hour or so. I've seen videos of bridges and structures that stood 30 feet above the usual water line suddenly coming into contact with raging waters and debris. Whole houses, trees, cars, all sorts of debris just floated away. But most tragic of all was a much-loved summer camp for girls that had been a mainstay of seasonal excitement and fun for decades. It's called Camp Mystic. You probably heard about it. The waters swept through Camp Mystic in the early hours of the night. Young campers were suddenly victims. Cabins were wiped out. The camp director lost his life trying to save young girls. In all, there have been more than 80 deaths from the raging flash floods, up to 90 perhaps now that the show started. As of last night, over a dozen young campers were confirmed dead with a dozen more missing. One of the deceased was an 8-year-old young lady from Mountain Brook, Alabama, just down the road from me. It was a horrible event. But already the stories of heroism are coming out. One Coast Guard rescue swimmer has been personally touted by Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem for personally rescuing 165 people in one day. That's rescue swimmer Petty Officer Scott Ruskin doing his first ever rescue event in his career. And he personally intervened in such a way that saved hundreds. And that's amazing. One Texas woman was found clinging to a tree after she was swept 20 miles down the river. A family spotted her and got help, and all manner of rescue efforts were conducted to bring her to safety. Story after story after story, and I'm sure there's going to be more. But what's striking to me is how quickly the left pounced on this event to begin trying to assess the blame to the Trump administration. Democrat Rahm Emanuel once said, quote, "You never want a serious crisis to go to waste, right? Using crisis for political expediency has to be one of the most opportunistic, galling, and reprehensible things any person could do. But they do it. And the left, they have it down to an art form." The head of the Occupy Democrats group immediately claimed, "It only took 9 days for Trump's cuts to NOAA to kill dozens of children in Texas." Really? Because the last I checked, the National Weather Service office there was staffed up for the events of the weekend. Rosie O'Donnell, who recently fled to Ireland, by the way, pronounced the horror in Texas was because Trump had gutted, quote, "all of the early warning systems and weathering forecast abilities of the government." Not really. She also said, "These are the results we're going to start seeing on a daily basis." No, that's not how that works. She's also the one who thought 9/11 was an inside job, by the way. Then there's George Stephanopoulos chiming in from CNN claiming staffing shortfalls at the National Weather Service, Hakeem Jeffries, Adam Kinzinger, Ron Filipkowski, and more. Texas Democrat Joaquin Castro, instead of comforting his own constituents, decided he would lay blame on the Trump administration. But look, actual ground truth can be found in a statement that was issued by one of Alabama's most trusted people. Weather guru James Spann, a bunch of y'all know who I'm talking about. James Spann, a man who decries politics, he felt the need to have to chime in and clear the record. In a post he put out this past Sunday, Spann said, here's his quote, "A flash flood watch was issued for Kerr County, Texas at 12:41 a.m., just after midnight. The watch mentioned isolated rain amounts of 10 inches and stated, quote, excessive runoff may result in flooding of rivers, creeks, streams, and other low-lying and flood-prone locations. Creeks and streams may rise out of their banks." But then he says, that was followed by a flash flood watch that was issued Thursday afternoon. A flash flood watch or warning was then issued at 1:14 a.m. for Kerr County. A flash flood emergency was then issued at 5:34 a.m. for Kerr County and the Guadalupe River region. And then he says, National Weather Service Austin San Antonio had 5 people on staff during the event. They normally would have only had 2. Extra staffing was actually put in place before the event started. This type of flooding on the Guadalupe River, as James Spann points out, is nothing new. Similar events have happened in 1998, 78, 35, and 21, and this year's events was related to deep moisture from a tropical storm. So yeah, there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of laying of blame, a lot of political posturing, and none of it is correct. And none of it is reasonable. And none of it is helping the people of Texas who lost so much. I'm also mindful of the fact that the same pundits and politicos who are casting aspersions at the current White House are the same ones who were silent after the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. It took Joe Biden a year to visit that disaster scene. And by the way, he never declared it a disaster for federal relief. President Trump, he's already issued a disaster declaration for this past weekend's floods. He announced that he'll be headed to Texas later this week. Today's naysayers are also the ones who were mysteriously ineffective in assisting the people of East Tennessee and Western North Carolina in the wake of the devastating damage wrought by the storms of Hurricane Helene, where people continued to live in shacks and with nothing left to their name for months without relief from the Biden administration. The bottom line is this: no one bears direct fault for a natural disaster. What matters is how you handle it. What matters most is what comes after. We're told in Scripture in John 16 that in this world you will have trouble. We're also told to fear not, for I, Jesus, has overcome the world. What matters is not the fact that bad things happen, basically. What matters is what we do with them. All the political posturing and the attempts to get Trump are so feckless as to be laughable, but yet they aren't funny at all, really. I mean, get your act together, people. Rally up for the folks who are doing the doings and that need our help to assist our family and friends out there in Texas. If you want to get involved, there's some great organizations already active and physically present. There's Alabama's Church of the Highlands, which has an incredible disaster ministry that literally takes truckloads of gear and supplies into disaster zones all the time. There's Franklin Graham's Samaritan's Purse, which has already entered the disaster area. Of course, there's the Red Cross, already engaged and should be. You can support each one of these organizations directly, or you can support them financially, and I encourage you to do so. The question here is not one of politics. The question is not one of blame. The question is not one of what if or who didn't or shoulda, coulda, woulda. The question is, when you're faced with a reality, when a disaster occurs, when there's a loss of great magnitude, what will you do with it? Well, right now we're in the disaster aftermath, and our folks out in Texas need help, not politics. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, it's amazing to me. Some of the naysayers and the pundits and the politicos jumped on this within hours. While they're still searching for bodies, they're deciding Trump's at fault. Give it a rest, people. How about you go out there and start actually doing something? Maybe move some debris, join a search team, send some contributions. Politics, that doesn't save anybody's life. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, text lines are open. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. You can text it. Give us your thoughts. I'll read them out as we go. I got several of y'all texting in already, and I'll get to those here momentarily. Right now, though, I got to tell you about attorney Stan McDonald. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee out of Huntsville, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. Stan McDonald, I've known him for a while now, and Stan is one of those guys who is not only a good lawyer who could do the things you need done, but he's also been in the mix, in the trenches, in the fight for all the policies and politics that right-side ruffians care about. He's an OG ruffian from way back. But yeah, Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So here's the deal. You need a lawyer in North Alabama. I'm going to recommend him to you. And I'll give you his phone number. That's the attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Yeah. Oh, we're not going to do the thing. Here we go. You ready? Okay. I've had several days of rest. No representation made. The quality legal service be performed is great. The quality legal service for all lawyers. Last part kind of slurred.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's right.
It was pretty good, though.
Close to a 9 flat, I would say.
Bottom line's a good freaking lawyer. How about that?
There you go.
Okay.
That's a 10.
All right. Hey, a bunch of y'all texted. Let me see what we got. Some of these. Thomas from Athens checking in says these Dems and others with Trump derangement syndrome have zero scruples. That makes them genuinely unscrupulous. That would fit. WVNN went to white noise just now. Okay. Thank you. We're on white noise right now. That's quite the text you sent me. Is that an old text?
Know. I'm hoping that's an old text. I think we got it fixed.
All right, we had a thing going there for a minute, but just I think it's already been unglitched.
If you're listening to this on VNN or anywhere right now, let us know. Let us know if we're live.
Yeah. Dave from Capshaw says, what's he got? From CNN via Rumble, how many people view Musk favorably and the GOP unfavorably? 4%. Okay. In other words, Republicans are not scared. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, the Democrats have the same demeanor and the mindset as small, rotten children who were not raised right. He said they always blame someone for anything that happens, to have no empathy for anyone other than themselves and no common sense, and will do anything to advance their agenda at the cost of hurting others. My opinion, says Jeff, is, and I think statistics would bear this out, the majority of our prisons are filled with liberals because they have no empathy for others, and I believe it's almost a mental illness. Blessings upon the families and the lost souls in the flood. Thank you very much. By the way, he also said, happy anniversary to Rightside Media. Yes, indeedy. Today is the beginning of our 5th year. Today. Wow. Today is the beginning of our 5th year. We actually, this past weekend on Saturday was the 5th, which we went live on the 5th. But since today's the first air day time, we're live today, beginning our 5th year.
Huh.
How about
that?
Them apples?
I didn't even know that.
Come on. There's an applause line. Thank you very much. Several of y'all telling us that VNN, we're good to go. Julie Ruff from Marshall County says loud and clear. Kim from Danville, Alabama says VNN, you're good. Karen from Rogersville says, I hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much. Thank you all more than you could possibly know. John from Huntsville, Phil, spectacular monologue. Also, just want to let you know I had a great July 4th because the people of Nashville finished my newest song demo and sent it to me on July 4th, and I watched at least 100 Twilight Zone episodes during a 4-day TV marathon. By the way, JP, your Braves are on a massive losing streak. That's a lot in one text.
What else is new?
I got more texts. I got more stuff, and we're going to have to hear about JP's trip for a minute, too. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you right side ruffians out there, you are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just, man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This one, whew, I mean to say, goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn. And oh, yes, by the way, straight across the border from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio audience. Then there's all of y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, live streaming the show right this very minute on places like Rumble, YouTube, X, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then a ton of y'all podcast the show after the fact. I say all that to say thank you. Thank you very much as we enter into the 5th year of Right Side Radio. Thank you very much for what you do, for who you are, and for making this worthwhile. We appreciate you more than you could possibly know. All right, I got a few more text messages I'll clean up. Roy from Hartselle says, congratulations on entering your 5th year. I enjoy your program. Roy, thank you very much. We enjoy having you for our ruffian. How about that? Allie from Athens said, Colonel, surely you remember that Hurricane Katrina was President Bush's fault, don't you? I do recall that. It was amazing. Apparently he had his own rain machine, and he made it flood. And then he withheld help, even though the mayor of New Orleans, who said that he was going to turn it into a chocolate city, that's what he said, resisted having any help. Remember that guy, Mayor Negan? Remember him? Negan? That guy was such a just complete discombobulated individual. Never should have been in charge of, his own house, much less a major city. Marie from Madison says, this is the progressive liberal response to any tragedy. Just squawk and blame Trump and squawk and blame Trump. You nailed it. All right, listen, we're going to talk about plenty of things, including some of which is going on right now in Los Angeles. But first, I gotta say, JP, you just had an epic tour of the European continent. I mean,
just France and Italy, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
Somewhat of almost the European continent.
You flew into where?
Flew into Paris, and then Wednesday we flew from Paris to Rome, and then on Saturday we flew 9 hours from Rome to Atlanta to Birmingham. So, yep.
Okay. So, favorite moments. Give us a couple. Come on. Big doings.
I'd say my 2 favorite parts of the trip were probably going to Normandy and then the Vatican. The Vatican was pretty awesome too. But it was really sobering to see the Omaha Beach Cemetery, which has got 10,000 soldiers there. They played taps while they took the flag down. But then they had a massive wall commemorating all of the soldiers who have not yet been found from D-Day. And actually, there's one soldier with my last name on it, which was pretty,
really,
amazing to see. But yeah, the whole cemetery, just seeing a visual, and I think it was 10,000 soldiers were buried there, and 30,000 died in D-Day all whole. So only a third of the people who even died on D-Day were there, but still, just seeing all the crosses of the soldiers, it was really sobering to me to think about the price they paid. It would have been even cooler though if Customs didn't take my Omaha Beach sand little thing. that was
a little jar of sand.
Yeah, I got a little jar of sand that Customs decided to take. But other than that, it's pretty. And the Vatican was awesome. I didn't even know that the Vatican was actually its own country. I thought people were joking.
Yeah.
I thought people were joking about that. It's got its own army, its own
it's the smallest nation state in the world.
Yeah. But the Sistine Chapel, St. Peter's Basilica was pretty awesome. Just so beautiful and amazing.
So on the you sent me pictures from you were at Normandy at Pointe du Hoc where the Rangers climbed the cliffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean I've only seen it in pictures. I've only read about it. But how did it look standing at the cliffside looking down where they had to crawl up the cliffs under withering fire?
Oh, it was amazing. I think the cliffs they said were 100 feet tall and literally just steep straight up. And I just try to think about the plans are messed up. We'll just climb these 100-foot cliffs. It's like, no big deal. But I thought it was pretty cool. There was a Rangers plaque in the bunker. So like the old German bunker now has got a Rangers plaque that where the Rangers took it over. I thought that was pretty epic. And the roofs too of the bunker were wood, and they were all black and charred. And our tour guide said that's when the U.S. soldiers came in and flamed through the bunker.
Oh, the flamethrowers, yeah.
And I was walking around and I was like, the entire roof in this thing is black. They literally flamed through this entire bunker and they came in. But yeah, I that was amazing to see. Just thinking about what they, having to climb those cliffs, and it's just amazing to me.
Okay, did you have coffee with the Pope?
No, not with the Pope, unfortunately. If we were a day earlier, we would have gotten to see the Pope do mass, but we were a day later.
He's an American and he's a baseball fan. I figured y'all would have hit it off quite
yeah.
well.
Yeah, I wish we were able to see him, but no, it's they still had the chairs out from the mass the day before, which I think is pretty cool. They do mass right where Peter was crucified. That's like an amazing,
Yeah,
testimony.
in fact, you say that, you and I were talking earlier. I read somewhere and it struck me. I'd never thought of this before. Jesus said of Peter, "You are the rock upon which I will build my church." And Peter was actually executed, crucified there in the place which was known as St. Peter's Square, right?
Yep.
And that's where the Vatican, the church, the early church is built. And you think about it, the symbology, but at the same time, that's like a prophecy fulfilled.
Yep. The Roman Empire is no more, except Peter's church is still there, right where they crucified him.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
About that. Yeah. It's right. The Romans crucified him, and the Romans are now that empire fell.
Yep. But Peter's and his church still stand right at that same spot. I didn't even know Peter's tomb was there too. Got to see Peter's tomb in the bottom of St. Basilica, where most of the other popes are buried as well. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Any single like funny story? Anything like you're traveling as an American in a foreign country, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a culture clash.
Well, I think the funniest I told you off air of, we went to a restaurant outside of Vatican City, and tipping is not the same in Rome. or Europe. We learned they don't even have tips on, like, you have to ask, like US, they have an automatic spot for tips on receipts.
Can we do that here?
Yeah. Well, the reason they don't is because they get paid a lot more, I guess. They like $3 to $5 tips in cash is normal. But anyways, so my dad wanted to tip 20%, and he said, oh, you can only pay in cash. So he goes, oh, well, we don't have any euros on me, but we need to go to the ATM anyways. So we went a block down, got cash, about 20% of tips worth, which is pretty normal in the US. We come back and they lose the waiters and waitresses all give my dad a round of applause. They all start hugging my dad. They, like celebrating him. They give us, my whole family, free gelato. And then they go, and the waiter goes to the back and brings out 4 shots for my mom, dad, and me and my sister. Obviously my sister didn't drink any, but I sitting there, I was like, tips are that uncommon here, I guess. 20% tips, which would be normal in the US, is like, we almost had our picture put up in the restaurant of like best customers ever. We got
they've named it after you now.
But in that moment, I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy.
They now have the plot dish.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So I think we got free gelato. Thanks, Dad.
Oh, that's hilarious. You know what? It's probably also because they saw him leave and he came back.
He came back, and
very cool, man. I'm excited for y'all. I'm glad you had a great trip. I want to see more pictures later on.
Oh yeah, I got tons of them.
we were following on Facebook while you were gone.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah. It's so funny. I can't tell you how many selfies there were. Same picture, all of y'all gathered together with a different background.
That's my mom having to take selfies everywhere we went.
It was awesome. I would too. It was good. Glad for you. All right, listen, we're going to cover some stuff here in a few minutes, and when we get back, I'm gonna listen. We're going to kick off this thing, law and order. Law and order is a huge deal, and boy, if I shifted gears. But yes, law and order is a huge deal. That kind of is an understatement. But when I say that, what I mean is, law and order is actually one of the essential services of government. You hear it all the time in our founding documents, to establish domestic tranquility, to ensure the general peace, and basically this is an essential service of government. You don't just like go, well, we hope you'll do a good job. You're supposed to do a good job. In fact, we rely on you to do a good job. And people don't like to pay taxes, but there are a few things that we pay taxes for which we expect there to be a return on our investment. One of which is that the laws will be enforced and the streets will be safe. Now, in liberal venues, you can't always find that, right? And in liberal venues, it's almost as if they take delight in trying not to enforce the laws. What I'm loving right now is that under conservative administrations like the Trump administration and like in states like Alabama, there has been a decided and concerted effort to not only enforce the laws, but to truly round up those who won't. So I'm going to tell you about some examples of that. And then coming up top of the hour, we're going to have Katherine Robertson, who works with the Attorney General of the state of Alabama. And oh, by the way, is running for AG herself now. So we'll take a break right now. JP, go ahead and move me into the break. We'll come right back from the break and we'll jump on into some law and order discussion. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just making common sense like a superpower. All right, I mangled it a while ago. I mangled it. But what I was trying to say was one of the essentials of government is, of course, public safety. It's the enforcement of our laws. And the founding documents support that by saying, provide for the common defense, support the general welfare, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Not like I didn't have that memorized before, but I couldn't get the words out a moment ago. But there it is. Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. What does that mean? That's establishing law and order. Provide for the common defense. Is that just the military? No. The common defense might mean our borders. It might mean our laws. It might mean our streets. Support the general welfare. What does that mean? Is that giving away Social Security, Medicaid? No, not necessarily. It means making sure that people are cared for. I'm telling you, law and order is what our founders determined was one of the things that government was supposed to do. That when you pay your taxes, and Jesus said, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, taxes, we all hate them, but there they are. But when you pay for them, you're not looking for them to go to things like a $20 million Sesame Street in Baghdad. You're not looking for them to do transgender surgeries in, Sudan. You're looking for them to do some things, though, like paving your streets, providing for a reasonable amount of infrastructure in your area, the servicing of goods and utilities and the ability to regulate those, and then law and order. Now, right now in LA, we got a thing going on right this very minute. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, boy, she's a piece of work. Mayor Karen Bass is actually challenging federal agents who have gathered for a large roundup operation. You've got ATF, you got 90 National Guardsmen that are a part of this event. And they are rounding people up in an area called MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. Mayor Bass went down there and thought it would be all the thing to get in their way and to confront them on it and to tell them they don't need to be doing this and to ask them to please go home. And she did. She actually went down there and said, and this is, by the way, this is government against government at this point. This is the mayor refusing to acknowledge that she has a problem in her community and that people don't feel safe. And she's asking for ICE to stop rounding up illegals. And ICE is saying, go pound sand. And ICE, by the way, brought in 90 National Guardsmen to protect them while they did their law enforcement roundup. That's ridiculous. But you know what it clearly shows me? Is that right now, this very minute, you've got the Trump administration determined to do what is necessary to preserve law and order. Coach Tommy Tuberville, Senator Tuberville, in response to an article on The Blaze showing LA Mayor Karen Bass trying to stop the federal immigration raids, telling them they all need to go home right now. It's unacceptable. Coach Tuberville's response was, lock her up. Just posted it about 30 minutes ago on his socials. Lock her up.
Isn't that obstruction, like to the T?
If she's literally trying to stop them, if she's trying to impede their progress or get in their way, I say yes, take her in. She needs it. She deserves it. Another story I got here from Town Hall, Dateline yesterday. Operation Apex Hammer. What is that? Operation Apex Hammer, U.S. Attorney Alina Habba and U.S. Marshal Juan Matos announced the arrest of over 264 criminals in the New Jersey region. New Jersey, 264 criminals. Operation Apex Hammer. It was a 1-month statewide violent crime reduction initiative with federal, state, and local partners working together. Love that. By the way, they were arresting people like illegal immigrants who had sex crimes to their rap sheet. You had other sex offenses. You had 17 arrested who were prior homicide convictions. You had 95 gang members. You had, the report went on to say that of the 254 people arrested, collectively, they had committed 2,625 crimes. And they're just roaming the streets. Thank you, Biden administration. I mean, some of them are like wanted for burglary and attempted sexual assault of children. You've got others that are members of MS-13, Tren de Aragua, the Murder Bloods, the Rolling 60s Crips, and other dangerous groups. And then there's Arizona. Pray tell, Phil, what's happening in Arizona? I thought they had a liberal governor. They do. Funny how this is working out, right? New Jersey, oh, blue state. Arizona, oh, purple state leaning blue. Oh, Los Angeles, oh yeah, purple state. sanctuary cities. Look at this. Arizona Free News reports as of this weekend, federal prosecutors in Arizona charged 164 individuals with immigration-related offenses as part of a concentrated enforcement effort. 164. Operation Take Back America. Loving that. The U.S. Attorney's offices through the national initiative through the Department of Justice, combating illegal immigration, dismantling transnational criminal organizations, increasing public safety. Joint effort of the Border Patrol, ICE, FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshals, ATF, U.S. Attorneys, all of it. Doing what it takes to get human traffickers, illegal aliens, criminals all off the streets. I'm saying all that because I want you guys to get it. When we talk about government, we're mad, government's too big, too bloated. There are certain things that we want government to do. One of which is to provide for the common defense, is support the general welfare, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. We want that. Well, here in Alabama, I am happy to say that even though we have blue pockets, that we are generally speaking a red state. Statewide office holders typically wind up being Republicans. And Attorney General Steve Marshall has been a great one. Attorney General Steve Marshall recently did a town hall with Brian Dawson from 1819 News, where he talked about the fact, he says, we're not a purple state. We have a 10th Amendment to our Constitution. It talks about the immense power of the states. Well, what I described to you a moment ago with things like Operation Apex Hammer and Operation Take Back America, those are roughly, generally speaking, federal with state involvement. But the states, including Alabama, have been doing an amount of work that has been incredible. And that's something that your Attorney General helps make happen. At the state level, with local law enforcement also involved, Alabama AG Marshall has said has led the way in legal battles for abortion issues, transgender surgeries against kids, immigration, law enforcement reforms. And he says it's all been hard-fought victories fighting woke ideologies from the Biden administration, but we've been doing it. And I agree with that. I mean, if you watch, it is so frustrating sometimes to, yes, live in Alabama and want more out of your politics. But when you every once in a while step back and get some perspective, and you compare it to places I just talked about a moment ago, like New Jersey and California and even Arizona, you look at it and go, my gosh, we live in the right place. Between Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, parts of Georgia, Florida, it's almost like the bastion of freedom. That 10th Amendment, that's a bulwark that gives us the ability to beat back the efforts of the liberal left. And right now, what I'm really pleased with is we're not having to fight our own U.S. government anymore. Do you know the U.S. attorney in Alabama was actually helping fight the issue related to immigration, not immigration, but transgender surgeries on minors because the Biden administration was forcing them to? I mean, come on. At least now we're back to a place where it's red at federal and red in Alabama. Meanwhile, law and order, more to do, but we got good people doing it. One of those is about to call in a minute. Katherine Robertson. We'll talk to her about her own run for Attorney General. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. conservative and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Meatloaf Monday, because it's always about the food. Well, listen, I'm talking about law and order, and I meant what I said earlier in the segment, that I mean, one of the few essential services, one of the things you pay your taxes for and expect it to happen, one of the few essential services of government that we can point to, even on our founding documents, is indeed law and order, to provide for the common defense, support the general welfare, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. That's not all about internationals and borders, and sometimes that's about your safe streets. Well, someone who knows that quite well is someone who I've had the pleasure of knowing a bit over the years. Katherine Robertson is on the phone right now. Katherine Robertson has been the senior counsel to Attorney General Steve Marshall now for a number of years. She's got her law degree from the University of Alabama, but her undergrad from Auburn. She's also, by the way, worked on the Hill for Senator Jeff Sessions, and I first knew her as the senior policy counsel and vice president for the Alabama Policy Institute. And full disclosure, my daughter worked for her for a short period of time as an intern. And Katherine Robertson, how are you doing?
Hey, Phil, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for making time for us.
Of course. Great to be with you.
Listen, Katherine, I mean, I want to just get a feel for your job and the things that I know y'all have accomplished. I would dare say that one of the most successful, maybe the most successful attorney general we've had in modern history in Alabama has been your boss, Steve Marshall, and you've been there right in the middle of it all with him. Talk to me about the job and some of the latest stuff you got going on.
Yeah, I appreciate you recognizing that. I really do think that A.G. Marshall has been the best attorney general we've ever had. We've had some great ones, but he really came in at a time where we really needed somebody that was an expert in the public safety arena. Of course, the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state. AG's that, sort of had expertise in a lot of different areas. I think it was really time to go back to the traditional role of the chief law enforcement officer and for that to be the priority. And he's done that. And I mean, every day we've come to work, we've had the mission of making our state safer. And a lot of the ways that we've done that is through just the philosophy behind criminal justice in Alabama, the ideas that we've brought to the legislature, and just the way that we've managed cases. And I'm really, really proud of our track record. And there have been times, depending on who was in the White House, and times when there's weak leadership in certain cities, that the AG's office really had to step up. And I'm super proud of that. And we're really pleased to be living in a time right now where the federal partnerships are back. And so it's a great time for law enforcement right now in Alabama.
Well, I made the comment to you off the phone and off the air a minute ago, and I said it to your boss, the AG, when he was here in our studio, that 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution really is like a firewall. It gives states the right to have a say when there's overreach from the federal side. And you might think that's always red on blue, but sometimes it's even red on red. But the reality is, the last 4 years, Lord, you guys have been like in one running gun battle after another with the federal government.
There's no question. I mean, the 10th Amendment is another big core piece of our mission at the AG's office, which is to defend Alabama's sovereignty. We have, paid a price for giving that up in some scenarios. And of course, when there's a friendly administration, you still don't give up those fights because you know that it won't stay that way. When it comes to law enforcement, the federal government's role is really to supplement, I think, the state and local government's law enforcement efforts. When those partnerships are working, it's better. But of course, we do our thing, whether they're around or not. Like you said, the state's job is to protect the public health and welfare, and law enforcement is a huge part of that. But when it comes to other things, decisions about schools, decisions about regulation, decisions about the state legislating the issues it wants to address, the federal government can really get in the way of that. Not as much lately, but over the last 4 years, that has kept us plenty busy.
Well, you guys have fought, and in fact, one of the things I've been so pleased with is it wasn't just about criminal law. Sometimes it was fighting the culture wars. Sometimes it was fighting about funding for the state, or for that matter, election issues like the ongoing saga of congressional districts in Alabama. What if you had to look back over the last? Well, you've been there since 2017. Before that, I think you were with Luther Strange for a little while before that. But what if you had to look back over the time you've been there in the AG's office? Like, what would you hang your hat on as some of your favorite moments?
Oh man, I think going back to COVID, those are some really significant moments. I wouldn't say they were my favorite. Those were some really hard days for our team, but the way that we fought Biden's vaccine mandates, we had success in nearly every case that we brought against that administration to keep our state free to make those decisions for ourselves. Lately, obviously, the dangerous experimentation on minors in the form of this transgender medicine, the role that we played at the Supreme Court a couple of weeks ago was really one that was sort of emotional for me, one that we've been fighting for a long time. And then the Title IX girls sports case that's coming up is another case that we've had a very heavy hand in. So thankful to see the high court willing to take that on. So, I mean, these are things that, you know, a lot of people go to work and go to school every day and aren't that worried about, and they shouldn't be. That's our job, is to worry about those things 24/7. But there are cases that if we haven't won, life would look a lot different in Alabama. And there's a big reason why, and that's the federal government's stronghold over so much of our activity due to money. And so we're thrilled at our track record so far. Redistricting is one that win has been harder to come by, but we're not giving up. There's still a possibility we can win that one in the long run too. So the constitutional defense that we do is a huge part of the work that we do. It's actually a huge recruiting tool. We have excellent attorneys that want to come fight those fights. So yeah, the social issues are a very important part of our day-to-day work.
Well, now you've been there for some landmark moments too. I mean, even watching from far. But am I right that y'all file a brief in the Dobbs case that wound up overturning Roe v. Wade? Weren't y'all in some way contributing to that whole effort?
Yeah, we were heavily involved in the Dobbs case. Obviously, Mississippi, our next door neighbor, is a close ally of ours. We were in lockstep with them. We had already passed our law, the same law that they were dealing with in their case. We filed a brief. And actually, Alabama was the first state to have the injunction lifted on our abortion prohibition. Our law was the first in the country to go back into place after the Dobbs decision was handed down. So yeah, very significant moment there, and a great win for our friends next door in Mississippi.
Well, sorry, let's turn it kind of to home then. Safe streets. Am I correct? And I think I recall this correctly. Isn't the AG's office helping with the task force to make Montgomery's streets safer in the midst of the crime wave they had in the last couple of years? Y'all have been contributing to that too, right?
We've been part of a task force with ALEA, the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, the Sheriff's Office of Montgomery, the Montgomery PD, and it's been really effective. I mean, it just came at a time where the citizens of Montgomery were just desperate for an extra infusion of help, and we were obviously happy to provide that. We feel a lot of responsibility for the city of Montgomery. That's our backyard. Most of our employees live there, and so it's our capital city. So if the Attorney General's office can't help in Montgomery, then I don't know what we're doing. So we've been continuing that. Now that is a kind of a surge thing. It's not something that's easy to maintain over the long term, but the idea was just to provide some relief for the locals in hopes that that they could end up taking it on. We've looked at replicating that in other cities. I think that our experience in Montgomery has showed us that there may be some value in us having boots on the ground in some other parts of our state. And that's a kind of long range plan that I'd like to see come to fruition. But yeah, look, we believe that public safety is the most important thing, obviously the most important thing for our office. But really, if your city isn't safe, then nothing else really matters. If people don't feel safe in their neighborhoods, then what else matters? And that bleeds into education, economic development, all the things that we want for our state and our communities. If people aren't safe and they don't feel safe, then the rest doesn't matter. So we take that responsibility not very lightly, and we're just always looking for innovative ways to help out.
Well, okay, let me with a couple more minutes here before the break, let me ask you. I first met you when you were working at the Alabama Policy Institute. That was founded by who is now Congressman Gary Palmer. Of course, you worked with Senator Jeff Sessions on the Hill, I believe. That's right. And then I saw you working policy issues in the State House on behalf of API. And one of the things I really enjoyed about Steve Marshall is that he has not been afraid to interact with the legislative branch and ask them for things that he felt were, something that would make his job easier to enforce the laws of the state or whatever the case may be. Do you see
right.
AG's office as being actively engaged if you are successful in running in policy issues based on your background?
Absolutely. I mean, it was one of the first things that I told Steve when he took office. I said, I'll play the primary role in philosophy on criminal justice, and you do that through the legislature. And there had just been, the legislature had been coming out of a time when leniency was more the topic du jour. There were a lot of out-of-state groups coming in and saying that our prison sentences were too harsh, et cetera, et cetera. And we needed to turn that around because we were starting to see the negative effects of that. And so to Steve's credit, he allowed me to take that on. We went over there. The very first bill we did was the Fair Justice Act to speed up capital litigation, which are the worst violent crime cases our state sees. We passed that successfully. And after that, we were off to the races. We accomplished parole reform. We did an anti-gang bill. We've done sentencing on child exploitation. We've tried to correct our overly generous good time for inmates.
Yeah.
And everything we have taken them, they have passed. Every bill we've asked them to pass, they have done it, usually with a bipartisan base. This year, I wrote the Speedy Trial Act, took that over. That's to deal with violent crime case backlog. Again, passed unanimously. So we've had a lot of success, and I think that is to be attributed to not just AG Marshall's leadership, which is huge, but also that they buy into what we're selling, that they know that we're studying these issues closely, and that there's a reason when we bring them a bill, it's not something we take lightly. It's something that we've studied and is born out of what we're seeing on the ground. And so we've really, really appreciated those partnerships with the legislature and have had a lot of success to show for it. And we're finally starting to see cases prosecuted under a lot of these bills that we've worked on. So that's really exciting too, to really see it, in effect.
Actually see it come to life. Absolutely. Well, listen, I want to take a break right now. Katherine, can you hang on during the break? I want to come back and talk about your campaign per se. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
All right, we're taking a short break right now. We'll come right back from the break. We're with Katherine Robertson, who is right now chief counsel to the Attorney General, and we'll talk to her when she gets back about running for AG herself. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, we're going right back to the phones. Katherine Robertson has been chief counsel to the Attorney General's office now for a number of years. She's had an amazing career working with some of the top-ranked politicos in our state, working at the Alabama Policy Institute in leadership, and she is now running for Attorney General herself officially. So, hey, Katherine, tell us about your campaign. What sparked this? And by the way, am I correct in saying you've never run for office before, but you've certainly been around them?
That's correct. Never run for office before, and honestly, Phil, I have never wanted to. But I think just in the brief conversation we've been having, we covered a whole lot of different issues. The AG's office is a really, really unique place to practice law. It's a very complex place to work. And when I think back on our early days in the AG's office when Steve first came in and I was there to help him, we weren't as good at it as we are now. There's a learning curve there. And I just started thinking about, when Steve leaves, he'll be the longest serving AG we've ever had. He'll have 10 years under his belt, which has never happened before, which means I'll have 10 years under my belt. Why not offer myself and offer the benefit of that experience to the people? I really think that it'll benefit the state of Alabama to have continuity from our office, especially when we've had such excellent leadership. And so after a lot of thought and prayer, I just decided that I'd get out there and see if I could earn the job for myself. So it's been really fun. I kicked off on June the 10th, and it's really been a neat opportunity to get to go out and talk about what we do and to hear feedback. That's something the AG has been able to do over the years, but I'm usually back at the office. So it's really been a gift just to kind of hear that people are paying attention to our work, and it's just been, I don't know, it's been really encouraging.
Well, you've been there for a while. Like you said, continuity does mean something. What's the rough size of the staff? I mean, how big an organizational effort is this to run the AG's office?
Yeah, we have about 185 employees under our roof, but also the other state attorneys that work in individual agencies also report to the Attorney General through me. That's in my portfolio as well. So we actually manage more people than we have under our roof, but it's a pretty big operation. We have about 16 different divisions and, hundreds of cases going at any given time. And, nobody walks into that knowing exactly how to get your arms around that office on day one, but maybe I'll be the first person who can.
Well, with about 2 minutes left, you're also, you're a mom and a wife. You've got a family. This is a family decision, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I've got my husband, Ryan, and my two children, Towns and Evie. They are used to me being busy. I've tried to do that juggle well. I think that, you can be called to be a mom and called to be other things at the same time. And so I've tried to do this without totally sacrificing my family time. There's definitely a balance there, but being chief counsel of the AG is a busy job. I've been doing it for 8.5 years. And so they're used to me having to split my time. I have a very supportive family and a great community of folks around me. And for whatever reason, I feel like this is what the Lord is calling me to right now. And I'm grateful to have a family that's backing me in that.
Well, if folks want to find out more about your campaign, where can they go to find it? You got a website or something you can tell us about?
Yeah, it's KatherineForAG.com, and it's spelled KATHERINE. I'm also on social media.
Well, Katherine, we wish you the best. They like to say, a week is a lifetime in politics, and you've got over a year. But you got there's plenty of time there to just continue growing this campaign. We look forward to hearing more about it. We'll have you back on again soon, and you've got our number. Okay.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate your friendship, and always happy to come on.
All right. Thank you. All right. That's Katherine Robertson. Listen, I'm trying to introduce you guys to the candidates for the offices. There's a lot going on. This is going to be a huge election season in Alabama, and you got open seats in every statewide office. And we're going to turn our attention to Tennessee at some point too, and get some of those, but the races are actually gelling already down here in Alabama. So for our Alabama listening audience, I'm going to be doing what I can to get them on the show, get you introduced to them, get you information on where to find out more about them, and get a feel for who they really, really are as a person, not just a candidate. That's an important piece. More to come. All right, we're going to come back and talk about the America Party. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this one goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. Benning. Oh, man, yeah. And then there's just like big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's all just the radio. That's all y'all listening to the radio. But all y'all in the whole wide world that go to the World Wide Web live stream the show every day, a whole bunch of you, all over the place, getting it through Rumble, X, YouTube, Facebook, on our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's a bunch of y'all that podcast it. And we know because we can see the download numbers. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate all of you. I say all that to say we got a diverse audience. It's all over the place. Bunch of right side ruffians. You're the reason why we do it. Thank you so much. We appreciate you more than you could possibly know. By the way, thanks to a bunch of y'all that ordered a bunch of merch. I mean, last week we sold some stuff. The rightsidemedia.org store has t-shirts, hats, stickers. What else we got? Coffee mugs. We got our bin shot right side media bulletproof influence glasses, custom made. Anyway, all that stuff sold like hotcakes last week. Butters put that promo code up, and apparently y'all took advantage. Maybe I lost money last week. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Natalie was here this morning packaging everybody's stuff up and getting it out in the mail. You should be getting it any day now. But if you want stuff, there's still stuff. But man, we sold a bunch of stuff last week with the promo code Liberty attached to it. So thank y'all very much. And let me get some text messages. Let me do that before I jump into my next dipper. Brian from Harvest says, we are the only country that really does tips at restaurants. Is that true?
I guess, yeah, it's not as common over there that we've learned. It's weird.
I got to tell you, the whole tip thing is getting out of control in the United States, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like Charlene and I went to a self-serve yogurt place not long ago, right? We go in, nobody said anything to us.
Mm-hmm.
We went up and got the cups, filled it ourselves, took it to the counter, put it on the scale ourselves, handed the girl our card, and she said, it's going to ask you a question. Well, the question was, do you want to leave a tip? And I was like, freaking no.
Yeah. Well, so it was funny because, we're in Europe and we're getting shots and free gelato for tipping 20% and getting celebrated like we were heroes. And then we're back in the Atlanta airport and we're getting Bojangles and nobody is taking our order. It's one of those screens where you order yourself and then wait for your order to come out.
Yeah.
And it asks for a tip on the screen. And I was like, nobody's here. Who am I tipping? Who am I tipping here? And it was just, it's so bizarre to me. It's like tips are expected over here. We're over there where like tips are, rare and they're celebrated.
And then you get afraid, like they ask you for the tip before they make your food. It's like, oh crap.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna spit it in if you don't give a tip.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. But there's times my pastor actually says, Church of the Highlands, you go to church anyway. Church of the Highlands, he actually encourages people, give a big old honking tip. Bless somebody if you can. If you got extra, bless somebody if you can. Give them a big honking tip. And I like that. I appreciate that. It's the ones like you're talking about, though, where like there's nobody here.
Yep.
What did you do for me?
Yep.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You just basically, and what really gets me is when the service is awful.
Yes.
And they still expect a tip.
Yeah. I mean, I try to tip, good at sit down restaurants, but like, I worked fast food. I wasn't expecting a tip, for doing stuff like that. It's like, it's weird.
It is weird. All right. It's a purely American thing, apparently, according to Brian from Harvest. What else we got? Ron from Brownsboro says, I don't know. I don't know what he's telling me.
He's
the CDC is running ads on our show about getting vaccinated. What's he talking
or
about?
wearing a mask and getting vaccinated, apparently.
That's got to be on WVNN on the station or something or one of the stations. I have no idea, Ron. It's not us doing it. I can tell you that. And if I had a way to take it off, I would, but I have no control over that. Scott from Somerville says, liberals think the preamble says promote the common defense and provide the general welfare. Yes. Yes, they do. And it doesn't. Linda from Madison says, from Breitbart News, Mexicans in Mexico City. I saw this. Mexicans in Mexico City are protesting and rioting over Americans who are taking over their city and causing rent prices to rise beyond what they can afford. They want the Americans out.
Oh, the irony.
Oh, the irony. The irony is running deep right now. Protests and riots in America. Every illegal alien has a right to be here, will never be deported. Yeah, no kidding. Wow. Matthew from Washington says, Phil and JP, happy Meatloaf Monday. Matthew from Washington. Checking in with y'all. I agree that what you said about earlier about being in a state, Alabama, that actually has law and order versus in a blue state where crime and taxes continue to get worse and worse every single day. On another note, movers are coming next week. Yay. Hope y'all have a great day. That's as awesome. So for those of y'all who haven't been following the saga, Matthew from Washington State is one of our regular listeners, and he and his family have been working to get their house sold. And we actually prayed for him online about that, or on the air, I mean, and then they got it sold in short order, and now they're moving back to the great state of Alabama, and he's been gone. Did he say like 20 years they've been gone?
Yeah, it's quite some time.
Matthew, we look forward to you being home. Keep us posted, dude. John from Huntsville. JP, you have the most generous dad ever because I've never tipped 20% because that's way too much. Wow.
Ah, well, apparently it is way too much in Europe. Like way too much.
Like, holy cow, what just happened? You changed their lives.
Yeah.
Too much. All right, listen, we're going to switch gears now, going into the America Party. So I will first start off by saying that I wish the president and Elon Musk could just, get it back together. I don't know if they will at this point. I'm not sure they can because the amount of gouging, especially, I'll be honest with you, I felt like Elon's got out of control. But the amount of gouging and cutting and backbiting, and anyway, it just got, so, I don't know if they're ever going to get back together, but think about it. You got the most powerful man in the world and the greatest capitalist in the world. They ought to be aligned. I would love to see them aligned again. In fact, I think we all enjoyed when they were aligned. I don't think anybody is of the mind that Elon Musk suddenly became a devout conservative. We know he's been soft on cultural policies or social policies at the very least. But he apparently became so disenfranchised with the big, beautiful bill over not certain aspects of it, one aspect of it, the spending piece. But that caused him to lose his complete trust and faith in anything to do with not just the Trump administration, but with the Republican Party in general. And so Elon Musk announced that he was going to be forming the America Party. Now, I'm going to go ahead and prelude this by saying I think it's a really bad idea. And it's a really bad idea, me speaking as a Republican. If I were a Democrat, I would love the idea. Why? Because it's not going to hurt Democrats a bit. Not a bit. Because the base that is disenfranchised that will join him in this is not the crazy liberal left base. The base that will join him is going to wind up being what I would call the never Trump Republicans and the centrists who go back and forth between, am I voting blue or am I voting red? Those are the ones he's shooting for. In fact, he even said, what I want is the centrists, the moderates to join me. He's already been backed by people like Mark Cuban, Anthony Scaramucci. He's got a request in that Mike Pence would join him in this. And I'm thinking, I'm just not thinking this is the way to go. But here's the thing. I don't think it's going to work, but I will also not underestimate anything that Elon Musk does. He has yet to fail at any major undertaking that I've witnessed. The man catches rockets that fly in from space. He catches them. They don't land. He catches them. He's created artificial intelligence at levels we've never seen before. He's got Neuralink. He's got Starlink. He bought X and restored us to free speech. So I say all that to say, do not underestimate the ability of Elon Musk to do something once his brain gets wired into the idea of doing it. Now we're going to get into it in a minute. What's he planning? What are the thoughts on this? What's the genesis of it? Does it really have legs? But also, what are his own people saying? Because right now, the board of directors at Tesla is a little nervous about this, and they don't want him doing it. all said and done, there's a whole lot more to come on this. When we get back from the break, I'm going to start telling you about America Party, but that's got a question mark at the end of it. So it's really more of a question. America Party? Like, what is that? We'll talk about it, break it all down. Take me to a break, JP. Meatloaf Monday. Oh, man, we're almost into hour number 3. Coming up next, America Party with a question mark. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. All right, so I'm in number 2 of the Triple Dipper, the America Party, question mark. Is this happening? I don't know. And I say that because there are indeed some things that have to be done from a legal standpoint. I don't know if they've been done yet. You don't just say, we're the party. All right, so you got it. There's actually a framework that has to be established. There's actually federal campaign finance guidelines that have to be established. They have to. Now, Elon can afford any attorney in the world to help him navigate that. So I just don't know if he's done it yet. I have seen no report in front of me that tells me that in an official capacity that the forming of the new America political party has been formed. I don't know. If it is, somebody tell me, because I have not seen that in my resourcing for the show. Have you seen it? Is it out there?
There is a document. I can try and pull it up and see specifically what it is, but there was something to
So they
verify
did file
that.
with,
there's something filed. Yeah,
with the I guess with the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission.
Yes, it was some. I'll find it.
Yeah, find that and see. They're going to wind up having to establish all kinds of parameters. Their fundraising is going to have to be validated. They're going to have to do certain things. All right, they can do all that. But the question is, what do they stand for? What are they going for? Why are they going for it? Is this really going to happen? Do we historically see third parties function well in the U.S.? And then you look at it and think, my gosh, look at the governments in like places like Israel and Great Britain, where they've got so many parties that you wind up having to form what they call coalition governments. Now, I'm not so purist in my republicanism that I don't recognize that sometimes competition actually drives improvement. I'm good with that idea. What I don't want to see, though, is something that is solely designed by someone who has sour grapes right now about one aspect of a giant legislative win that they are determined to make people pay. If you follow me, did you find that document? What'd you find?
Yeah, so I'm putting up on the stream here the FEC Form 1 Statement of Organization here.
So they did file it?
Yeah, American Party, AMEP. That's what it says.
The AMEP, the America, what's the E stand for?
The
AME?
I guess AME, America
American
and then
Party.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got the GOP, the Dems, and the AMEP. All right. So they've officially filed their FEC documents as a statement of organization. So they are officially organized. Okay. That's legit. That appears to be something the custodian of records has received, and there it is. More to come on it. We'll talk about who's supporting it, but let's take a look at some things that Musk has said about why this is happening. First of all, he did a poll. So I got a piece from The Hill. TheHill.com points out that Musk last Friday leaned hard into his proposal for a third party. So right there on the day that the big beautiful bill was being signed, on the the July 4th holiday, he decided to start the new party. And it says, hours before Trump signed the sprawling reconciliation package into law, Musk asked his followers on social platform X whether he should move forward creating it. So I will point out this is an unscientific poll. I'm not taking away from it per se. Anecdotal gatherings of information means something, but this was not an official poll. This is a people who already follow him saying things to see where it would go. By a 2-to-1 margin, he says. He got back results that said, apparently a bunch of y'all want to do it. So he said, let's do it. So they filed it. He re-upped the survey several times throughout the day, gave a glimpse into his strategy. Here's why I know that this will wind up hurting Republicans more than Democrats love this. They're like, go for it. Get her done. Says their idea would be to focus on 2 or 3 Senate seats and 8 to 10 House district seats. Given the razor-thin legislative margins, that would be enough to serve as a deciding vote, said Musk, on contentious laws, ensuring they will serve the true will of the people. Will it? Because what that means is, if you're running something that is looking at taking away from the GOP majority, decidedly taking away, then you're running the risk of the GOP not being able to get anything done. What else is they would do for it? I mean, what's their platform? What are they gonna stand for? I would call it GOP light. I've got a piece here from Daily Wire, Dateline yesterday. Daily Wire, Elon Musk on Saturday evening officially announced the creation of the new political party called the America Party. Musk suggested, listen to it, you ready? Suggested the new party will focus on reducing debt and regulation, promoting responsible spending, free speech, the modernization of the U.S. military, among other political issues. Okay. Is there anything in the Democrat Party or the leftist progressive left platform that you think deals with responsible spending? I got a cricket sound effect out there somewhere. I need it. You ready? Go. Responsible spending. No. How about free speech? Democrats, would you like to modernize the U.S. military? Are there Second Amendment issues that you like? All right, so what you just heard there are all the things that the Republican Party already says it stands for. So for him to form the America Party to say that they're going to do those things is to say we're going to do those things to be GOP light. Because what you don't hear in there is where is he on pro-life? Well, he's not strong on pro-life. What you don't hear in there is upfunding the police. I'm not saying he's against it, but I'm just saying you're not hearing that. All the things he listed as the things that the America Party would do are things that the Republican Party platform already contains. Whether you think they accomplish them or not is not the issue. The question is, what's the platform? Okay, if the platform is those things in the Republican side, then what he's doing is creating GOP light. And he says he's creating it for the sole purpose of starting off focusing on 2 or 3 Senate seats, 8 to 10 House district seats. That tells me his goal is to make sure that the slim Republican majority goes away while claiming to stand for the same things that the Republicans say they already stand for. It's a conundrum, y'all. I'm just telling you. Now, Donald Trump's got some comments on this. Donald Trump has some comments on this, as you can well imagine. Piece from the Daily Wire again. Dateline yesterday. President Donald Trump has been, quote, saddened to watch his former ally, tech titan Elon Musk, go, quote, off the rails, said the president. Here's his actual quote. He said, I am saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck over the past 5 weeks. He even wants to start a third political party, despite the fact they've never succeeded in the U.S. The system seems not designed for them. The one thing third parties are good for is the creation of complete and total disruption and chaos, says the president. And we have enough of that with the radical left Democrats who have lost their confidence and their minds. That's a classic Trump tweet, actually a truth on Truth Social. But then he goes on to talk about the fact that, he thinks Elon is still mad about the fact that the EV subsidies went away. Musk says he's not. But there is a telling piece in the middle of it. Musk said in response to that accusation, he said, keep the EV and solar incentive cuts, like he doesn't care. Even though he says no oil and gas subsidies are touched, very unfair. Oh, so he does have a beef. He does have a beef with the subsidies. He feels like some parts of the so-called green energy sector are getting upfunded while his is not. And he says it's unfair. But then he says, but ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in the bill. In the entire history of civilization, there has never been legislation that both big and beautiful. Everyone knows this, said Musk. Okay. Bottom line is this. That's an aha moment for me. I have an aha moment right here when I see that he is expressing his displeasure with the EV mandates being gone, claiming he wants to take down the slim Republican majority, and claiming to have a platform that is just GOP light. More on this in a minute. We'll tell you who's actually supporting this. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Said solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3. Hour number 3 on a Meatloaf Monday. If you got your meatloaf picked out, it's time. Almost a go-home time on a Meatloaf Monday. Hey, I'm in Dipper number 2, talking about the potential formation of this, or some potential, apparently it's formed, the America Party. So I gave you some breakdowns of things, and by the way, all I'm doing is quoting what Elon Musk himself has said. If you think about it, this is not something that is designed to hurt Democrats. It's not. It's designed to hurt Republicans. Now, he may claim, no, it's designed to make everybody better. And I get that. That's a fair argument, because maybe Republicans will go be what they say they are, because they're not always. It's so frustrating to watch Republicans campaign hard about the true conservative, and I follow the MAGA plan. And then they get in office and they're like squishy. You know, I don't want to make a wave. I want to keep my office. I need to be, well, you got elected to be it. So what are you worried about not getting elected for? However, I will say this. I also recognize what slim majorities that we're running on right now. Like literally the other day, the vice president had to cast the determining vote because it was that close. So that being said, Elon Musk himself is saying his goal is to attack some of the, what he would call, available seats. In his own words, he says, given the razor-thin legislative margins, we could focus on just 2 or 3 Senate seats, 8 to 10 House districts. So what he's saying is, I can take away the slim majority. Great. Good plan. How would that work out for you? All the things that you work for, capitalism, all of it. Poof. That being said, again, he also points out that the new America Party would, in his own words, be for responsible spending, free speech, the modernization of the U.S. military, and reducing debt and regulation. None of those are Democrat talking points. Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them is a Democrat talking point. What that tells me is there's probably going to be cultural issues that they're soft on, while there's going to be red on some things, blue on others. It's going to be a purple party. It's going to be GOP light. It's going to be the people that hate Trump and that would vote for anybody. They'd vote for your neighbor's house cat before they'd vote for Trump, even though they consider themselves to be Republicans. It's going to be people like the ones who are lining up with him right now. Who we got? All right, I got a piece here. Where'd it go? Yeah. The Daily Beast. Phil, did you go to the Daily Beast? I did. I go to these places so you don't have to. But yes, the Daily Beast is quickly pointing out that the effort is mounting up its opposition leadership. Who do we have? Pray tell, who's going to join us? Well, Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch. That guy is such a putz, the Mooch. They point out that he's a former White House director of communications. No, he's not. Wasn't he there for like 3 days? Can you look it up? How long did Anthony Scaramucci work in the White House? I think it was like a week at most. It was awful. He came and he went, like maybe a record. Do you see it?
10 or 11 days. Yes.
There it is.
From July 21st, 2017, and apparently till July 31st, 2017.
So don't even hang your pictures on the wall. Don't even learn where the bathrooms are. but the Daily Beast is still going to call him a former White House director of communications.
I didn't even know who he was till just now. So there's that.
The guy is so cheesy. I mean, he looks like somebody you should not trust, with your wife or your life. You know what I'm saying? So Scaramucci has been a staunch critic of Trump since departing the White House. Well, he was there for 10 or 11 days. He was embarrassing. He endorsed former Vice President Kamala Harris. He also had choice words for Musk, telling CNN early this year that the tech oligarch should lay off the politics, stick to business. But now Musk's party has also attracted interest not just from Scaramucci, but from Mark Cuban, the billionaire entrepreneur who supported Democrat causes in a big way. Other political figures who have expressed interest are people like Democrat presidential candidate Andrew Yang, that guy's a lib, and Justin Amash, a former Republican representative from Michigan. A viable political party must follow the Constitution to be fiscally responsible, says Amash. And then there's all this talk about tech investor Tyler Palmer also chiming in. Where do we send our donations? Okay. But yeah, that's a mixed bag of loose nuts. I don't think that would ever, if you think for a second that Anthony Scaramucci and Justin Amash and Andrew Yang and Elon Musk are all going to get in a room and come out with consensus, good luck. Who else? I got a piece here from Newsweek. Newsweek points out some of the same. Newsweek also points out that we have people like Roger Stone saying, I have respect for Elon Musk, everything he's done for free speech and to ferret out waste, fraud, and corruption, but I would rather see him pursue his efforts at things like electoral reform within Republican primaries rather than having a new party splitting the vote of sane people and letting the Marxist Democrats gain control again. And then there's Steve Bannon, who went completely nuclear and believes that we ought to see Elon Musk deported, which is, no, that's not going to happen. He's a U.S. citizen, for crying out loud. And then you got, people like, they got an American politics expert at the University of Portsmouth. What? University of Portsmouth? Okay. Third parties do not tend to have a long lifetime in American politics. It would likely split the Republican vote, says this expert, potentially resulting in a Democrat-dominated House of Representatives, at least in the short term, due to the winner-takes-all electoral system. Listen, I mean, this is what I think is going to happen. I do. Scott Jennings, who is, in my opinion, a rock star right now, that guy can get on there on CNN and stand his ground. But CNN political commentator Scott Jennings on Daily Caller warned yesterday Elon Musk, his newly launched third party, would divide the right and help Democrats win. Musk posted on X Saturday he created the American Party, and then here's what he said. I'm talking about he being Scott Jennings. It's harder than it looks to start a political party, and we'll see where they go with it. My humble advice to Elon, who I admire very much, is that you may be dividing the forces of the people who want to save Western civilization to the benefit of the people who don't. And so to the extent that this effort would divide conservatives and Republicans against each other, that would not be helpful, because it would leave the country to people who want unfettered immigration, who don't share your fiscal views, and so on and so forth. He said, third parties like honeybees. They sting and then they die. Yeah, well, I think we can look back and we can say, okay, we got a healthy dose of Bill Clinton because Ross Perot decided to run as a billionaire for president. And he stole enough of the vote to upset the George W. Bush campaign. I think we can look at certain places where independents step in and they split the vote. Now, I'm going to go ahead and caveat, and I'm not trying to toe the line on this. I'm going to tell you, I believe in competition, and I believe in the right of someone to run. I will also tell you, though, that every state has its own laws. In Alabama, you can't even run as an independent or a party unless you've been certified at the state level, not just the federal level. So you got to get on the ballot and make it work. You got to be able to, in Alabama, to run as an independent, you have to get signatures. In other words, you have to go through a massive amount of work to get independent signatures because you don't have any party vetting you or backing you. Party politics can be tiresome. Party politics can be boring. Party politics can also be onerous. Party politics are party politics. Put anything into committee and watch how well it goes. But the reality is, it's also your team. And the last thing I want to do is watch the portal open up and all of a sudden everybody's leaving the team because somebody's paying more NIL over here in the America Party. That was a bad idea for us, and I'm really hoping we don't see it happen.
You know, if I just add this real quick before the break, I agree with everything you're saying about the party it being GOP light too. I actually don't think the party itself is. I think it's going to be a flash in the pan, but who knows? However, I think it's important for GOP not to be like, oh, it's just Elon being Elon.
Yeah, don't discard it. Yep.
Like Elon represents a massive base that helped Republicans win this past year, and I'm a little bit worried about the midterms if. A lot of the independent voters and whoever voted Republican this last term who support people like Elon and Thomas Massey that Trump's going after, if they sit out and the Democrats win this, upcoming midterms. I'm not saying that should dictate what Trump does. However, I would like it if we didn't just attack the people that were worrisome on the bill and just, disagree on policy. I worry if the visceral attacks against like Massey and Elon and those sorts is going to end up biting us in the butt, but we'll see.
Well, I think I worry just as much about Elon's attacks against people who voted for the bill and forming a third party because of it. I think it's basically like cutting off your nose to spite your face, because the 90% friend is better than your 100% enemy every day of the week. And if you think that the Democrats are going to walk back in and be passive and be nice and we'll work with you better this time, screw that. They're going to come in mad.
No, they're going to like impeach Trump. Try to day one.
They're going to file articles of impeachment. They're going to be impeding everything. They're going to be trying to overturn things. They're going to be trying to pack the courts. So all said and done, the joy of victory that we've had can be quickly undone. And right now it appears it could be undone by our own. I agree with you. Do not underestimate this. I said earlier when I first started this segment, I totally agree. Elon Musk has been crazy successful at everything that he sets his mind to. And if he sets his autistic mind to this, where he fixates and obsesses on it and it becomes his new thing, he could build something that could be damaging.
And Elon has the resources other third party, like people who've tried to do it, didn't have. So he could be a major spoiler. That worries me a little bit.
He could take $1 billion and fund it from day one. Again, you got state laws they got to get through as well as federal laws, but still do not underestimate this America Party. Me personally, I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea as a Republican. I think it's a bad idea as a conservative. I think it's a bad idea as somebody who's enjoyed the wins that we've been having. We'll wait and see. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break right now. I'll come back and catch up on a ton of text messages. You want to text it? Text it. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. What do you think? America Party? Tell me how you feel. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Giving you all the truth you can slap on a bumper sticker. All right, so a bunch of y'all texting in about this third-party stuff, the America Party formed by Elon Musk. What do you think about it? I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Steve from Madison checking in. He says, if a third-party threat is all we get, consider ourselves lucky. We can't continue to break our promises by exploding the national debt with pork-filled laws. Okay, fair enough. But I also think if you think that somehow or another giving the Democrats back the House and the Senate is going to make the debt better, I ask you to refer again to the Inflation Reduction Act. There you go.
Well, and I'll also say I ultimately was for the bill in the end because I think ICE needed the funding that it got desperately. So hopefully we can see the deportation numbers go up and up and up.
Up and up and up and up.
However, what is it, September, where we have to pass a new budget? If we get another CR this September and just keep all the same old, and don't actually start to talk to balance the budget, I don't know. It's going to be rather frustrating if we don't actually talk about balancing the budget.
Yeah.
And just keep saying next time.
Regular order of business, they call it. I want to see it. John from Huntsville. What if Taylor Swift starts her own political party called the Swiftie Party? And I thought Elon Musk would have called his party the Electric Party. Okay. Thanks, John. You got to give him a laugh track. You got to give him something out of that. You know, you got to. Oh man, you just dad joked him in a big way. All right. Lee from Huntsville says, if Mooch, Cuban, Yang, Amash, etc. are all support his party, it's very ominous. This will do one thing: elect Democrats. Everyone needs to remember that if we lose the razor-thin margin in the House and Senate, they will immediately impeach Trump. Yes, they will, and they will immediately try to reverse everything we're doing. And don't forget, they will also immediately try to do what they can to get nominees to federal court benches. Clint from Tony, Alabama says, Phil, Elon Musk will be much better served along with the USA by getting behind and promoting a convention of states to get rid of the most blatant problems we have. Yeah, so I am not fully enamored of the Article 5 convention. I know why you say that. I realize that some things like term limits and balanced budget amendments will never get passed by the Congress because it's antithetical to their jobs. But there are some who believe, and this is where I throw caution out, there are some who believe that if you open up an Article 5 convention, that legally speaking, you have to open up the entire Constitution, not just a limited cut. And I know there's something, no, you can do it as a limited run. You can do a limited Article 5 convention solely for the purpose of balanced budgets or solely for the purpose of term limits or whatever. But there are other scholars who believe if you run down that road and you're not careful, then legally speaking, an Article 5 convention, they could sue and then take it all the way to the Supreme Court, which could decide that no, an Article 5 convention is not bound to limited circumstances. You could actually wind up opening up the entire Constitution and then have them attacking the Second Amendment from within the convention, have them attacking free speech and declaring it misinformation. So all said and done, I get real concerned that we don't yet know what the Supreme Court would do about whether or not an Article 5 opens up Pandora's box. That's the problem. And by the way, that was shared to me by one of the most conservative men that I served with in Montgomery. He was the kind of guy who, if there was a conservative cause, he was beating the drum before anybody else was. And on this one thing, he told me, Phil, be very careful. Here's why. And exactly what I just said. I have never forgotten that conversation. Ronnie from Athens says, okay, Ronnie from Athens, give us something about, we know WVNN is on the struggle bus right now. Apparently their timing is all off and we're asking them to please get their act together. Thank you very much. Mike from Florence says, if the America Party gets us closer to the Libertarian Party, I'm all for it. And I don't mean the radical no borders, no taxes libertarians either. It won't, because you don't have people like Mark Cuban and Anthony Scaramucci getting you more libertarian. If you mean by libertarian the people who say smoke weed, do what you want, live free, then no, that's not where it's going to be. If you're for the libertarians who are all about, like, no government in your life at all, then consider whether that's anarchy you want or whether you want just less government. But it's not going to get you more libertarian. It's going to get you more left.
If we can get a fiscally libertarian and a socially conservative party, then Hey, okay with me.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard.
I think what we actually need is to keep building what we got. John from Huntsville wants to know: is there anything better than a third political party called the Saban Party? Now he's trying to get a good sound effect out of it. Don't do it. Resist. Ed P. from Huntsville says, Phil, I disagree with you regarding your assessment of the impact of the American Party. Luke is coalescing around it, mostly Rhino Republicans and Never Trumpers. That's my point. Add to that the remaining sane moderate Democrats who are fed up with the party, and I see Dems losing more than I disagree. I disagree there. Okay. And he says MAGA does not seem to be interested in abandoning Trump. Well, we'll see. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, taking a break. We'll be right back. Rightside ruffians out there. You are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all are talking about this show. This show right here goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to the loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning, and then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Then all of y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, watching us on places like Facebook, X, YouTube, Rumble, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then you podcasters catching it after the fact. Anyway, bottom line is this. All the places that our audience takes this show in, we appreciate it more than you could possibly know. It means the world to us. JP and I could just sit here and talk into a can all day long. Means nothing if y'all aren't out there. So thank you very much for the blessing of being on the air with you. A few more text messages before I jump into the final portion of the show. Adam from Athens says, I don't know what he's telling me here. He says, I once had to walk to the store next door, buy a gallon of tea because I couldn't get the waitress to acknowledge us. Oh, needless to say, I put pocket lint in the receipt with a note about my service. Wow. Okay. Well, she didn't deserve a tip is what he's trying to say. Had to buy next door and buy a gallon of tea. That's interesting. Bill from North Alabama says Elon got mad because the bill repealed the EV mandates and hurt his wallet. He says that's not what it is. Then again, he also griped about the fact that he felt like other parts of the green energy sector were still getting benefits.
But I feel like what he's doing right now hurts his wallet more. I mean, and puts him in a much harder position.
I didn't even get to one of the stories I had because the last story I had before we ended that segment was one of his board members at Tesla writing a letter to the other board members, calling on the board to tell him to back off of this because all they're doing is hurting the company.
Yeah.
And his fiduciary obligations to his shareholders are at stake. So, yeah, there's that. Mark from Red Bay says, is this funny about people in Mexico City protesting Americans making their rent go up? He said they move here, take over a neighborhood, and property values go down. Go figure. So that's a great point. Tammy from Huntsville says, we would love to see Brother Trump and Brother Elon get back together. It's possible. Remember, Trump and Rubio? Elon just needs to understand the perils of being under Democrat rule. It's a great point. There was a time when Trump and DeSantis were sideways. There was a time when Trump and Rubio were sideways, but I don't think anybody has been as sideways with him as what we've seen recently with Musk.
Yeah, I think Trump's been sideways with just about everybody. So
yeah,
Ted Cruz, Rubio, everybody's, yeah.
I think Melania keeps him in line.
Yeah, everybody except Melania and his family. He's been sideways with. Yeah, his vice president called him Hitler. Like
Jeff Sessions.
Yes. Yeah.
There's been some angst. I will say this though, he's the one who rises to the top every time. You know, he's the one who's still going. He's the one who, oh, by the way, is the boss. Yep. So there's that. But I don't think there's ever been a parting of ways.
No.
With him that we've seen as visible and as filled with angst as what we're seeing right now with Elon.
I agree.
Brian from Harvest again says if it wasn't for the Second Amendment, we wouldn't have any other ones. Point well taken, sir. Connor from Huntsville says, a lot of reasons I can't explain here. I just do a big yawn when I hear the CBO projections on the economic impacts of legislation. If I want some real analysis, I go to the Heritage Foundation and I read EJ and Tony. Do you understand the effects of taxation and velocity of money better than anybody I've ever heard explain it? Great show. Appreciate you. Connor, you're right. And by the way, the Heritage Foundation did like the bill. I may be going to something later this year. I was a Club for Growth fellow. Club for Growth is a very staunch supporter of the bill, but also a huge fiscal conservative organization. So is Heritage. And there's going to be a gathering in DC this fall that I just got an invitation to. I may be heading that way. I'm enjoying this. I got a lot of folks chiming in. John from Minor. John says, happy Meatloaf Monday, fellas. Said, I actually had some today for the first time in years. Never been big on meatloaf, but I saw some in the deli in Piggly Wiggly. Had to give it a try. It was great. Take care, guys. Thanks for what y'all are doing. Thank you, John. Thank you for letting us know you went to the pig. Got you some meatloaf. Kimball from Harvest says this America Party is an absolutely terrible idea. It'll draw support from the Republican Party while not being powerful enough to overcome the Democrat Party. Look at all the nations across the world with multi-party systems, complete chaos. Middle Eastern countries, for example. And by the way, I think it's fair to say there is more than one kind of Republican. I saw it myself in Montgomery. I had people that were squishy on things that I thought I thought Republicans all stood for this. Pro-life. I saw pro-abortion Republicans. Boggled my mind. I saw Republicans who were for big government. I saw Republicans who voted for tax increases. And I looked at them and thought, how are you a Republican? At some point, it dawned on me, there's just different types of Republicans, and being a Republican and being a conservative are two different things sometimes.
Well, that's kind of, it comes to bite us though, and because the Democratic Party is in unison pretty much. I mean, this got some Fetterman, who's a little more common sense Democrat, but mostly Democrats, they get their step in orders and they get in line. But the Republicans, there's a lot difference of opinion on things, and a lot of people are Republicans because it's convenient to be a Republican.
I agree with that. I think that behind the scenes, there's some bloodletting going on in those Democrat caucus meetings.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's some people that are sick to death of Jasmine Crockett. I think there's people that are sick to death of AOC. I think there's people that even are sick to death of Bernie Sanders. Look at the way they dethroned him when he was about to win the Democrat primary. Mm-hmm. I think what we've got here is Fetterman is unfiltered.
Yeah. And
Hakeem Jeffries feels like he has to toe the line.
Yeah. Well, the problem is the leaders of the Democrat Party are the AOCs, the Hakeem Jeffries, the Zohran Mamdani, apparently, who's may win the New York City mayor race. Yeah.
By the way, how is it Democrats keep getting away with lying about their heritage? Yeah. How is it that what's her name from Massachusetts? I just lost my train of thought. The dadgummit who claimed to be a Native American.
Oh, Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pocahontas.
Yes. Yeah. Who
is
like
a complete brain cramp.
0.0001% Indian.
Was she even that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think even that was made up. She's about as pasty white as white can get. And she's claiming to be Native American and she survives it. And then you got like Blumenthal, who lied about his Vietnam service and just gets away with it.
Tim Walz, who also lied about his service.
And now you got Mamdani. Boy, I'm chasing a rabbit here. But Mamdani went two ways. On one application to go to Columbia University, he claimed to be both African-American and from, Lord, where was he? From an African country.
Yeah, it was I can't remember the exact country either, but yeah.
What is happening right now? The dude's Indian.
But this is the problem. It's that his New York City, I guess, is so liberal and comfortable that they think socialism is the answer. And it's the problem. You get Mamdani's out there. I'm just praying that somehow Eric Adams can pull it off. But the polls I'm seeing, he's at like 19%. So,
God. Well, listen, the bottom line is the Democrats live in identity politics.
Yeah.
They live in identity politics. And when you are so vested in the idea of identity politics, that's why liberals continue to lie about who they are, because they feel like they have to be into the identity politics mode. I've got to be something. Am I something enough? I don't know.
I got to be the first black, trans, bipolar, something to be this position.
What glass ceilings are left? I'll be that.
And then we have Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court because of it.
Holy cow. All right, listen. We just totally chased a rabbit. we just ran that thing all the way down. Let me take a couple of minutes to talk about something. I had a whole dipper set up for this. I don't know that I need to. My opening monologue, if you missed it today, I encourage you to go back and get it. My opening monologue was on the idea that the people in Texas right now, especially in South Central Texas, who right now the death toll is over 90. They don't need politics. They don't need us, badgering the Trump administration. I say us, libs, badgering the Trump administration like somehow Trump made it rain. The lie that there was a lack of staffing in the National Weather Service offices and that no alerts went out is an absolute mistruth. Alabama's own James Spann put up a great post about that very thing and described it in detail. They even upstaffed the office. It was staffed twice as much as what it usually is, from 2 to 5. They sent out alerts. The problem that James Spann says probably happened is that there's been a tendency for there to be too many alerts and people get numb to it and they don't respond quick enough when it happens. It does not mean, though, there's not tragedy, because there's absolute tragedy, especially in that young girls' camp, Camp Mystic, they called it. Camp Mystic was apparently a beautiful place that had been around for decades. And even the camp director died trying to save little girls. 27 counselors and children died at that one camp. Can you imagine sending your kid to camp? One of the little girls who died was from Mountain Brook, Alabama. Can you imagine sending your kids to camp only to find out that a flash flood literally wiped away their cabin while they slept? And that's what happened. While they slept, 2 of the cabins were wiped away, and 27 are gone. There's over a dozen still missing. All that to say, pray for the people of South Central Texas. Pray for the families who lost someone who may or may not be from Texas, but they are facing their own version of 9/11. I saw, one family where the man lost both his parents and his 2 daughters who were at the camp. Can you imagine that much loss at one time? And it happened in a span of an hour, where the lines went crazy. But all I'm telling you is the people of Texas, they don't need politics right now. They don't need Democrats trying to point fingers at the Trump administration. What they need is people to get involved. They need prayer and they need involvement. So I will tell you right now that the Red Cross, the Highlands of Alabama, which does an amazing job of disaster relief, they do incredible work, and Samaritan's Purse. Those 3 organizations alone, you could support one of them, and you would meaningfully do something to bless the people of Texas. So keep that in mind, and I'll go ahead and leave it there. Over 90 dead, 27 children from that one camp. Amazing. Amazingly tragic. All right, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back. I think there's going to be phone calls coming. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. John from Huntsville got the grades in. He says JP gets a B+ for his okay performance, and welcome back to America, which means today's co-winners with an A+ are Phil and Katherine Robertson with their equally amazing performances. Congratulations. Wow, JP. You slipped in the stats.
I don't know what I did.
Something angered the grader for today.
It's probably because I gave him a womp womp for his Taylor Swift third party idea.
Ben from Decatur says regarding the camp in Texas, also consider that most camps for kids do not have radio or TV on, so most likely didn't hear any emergency issue to flooding. Somewhat off the grid. Yeah, I think they have storm radios though, but still. And then Mike from Florence says I only got a chance to listen to maybe the last 30 minutes. I don't have time to read this a long text or I'll run out of time with Jeff, but he's talking about how much rain can dump in a short amount of time. So JP, if you want to read his text, maybe you can comment on it when we get back. Let me go to the phones real quick before I run out of time. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey buddy, how you doing?
Well, right now I'm passing the car fire that's on I-65 and Rosa Parks Boulevard here in Nashville, and it just started and it's blazing pretty good.
You got you a bunch of protesters out there, or is it an accident, or is somebody protesting?
No, just somebody could be a protester. I don't know, but it's on fire really good right now. But thank goodness I got past it before everybody come to shut the road down.
Wow. Okay, well that's a landmark you don't want to see twice.
That's true.
Well, what you think, man? What you think about all this stuff? We talked about America Party. We talked about Law and Order. What do you think?
Well, happy 5th anniversary, or happy first show of your 5th anniversary, I guess, or first 4th anniversary.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. By the way, I got a picture from Jeff this weekend as he was celebrating at the Weird Al Yankovic concert wearing his Rightside Ruffian shirt. That was awesome.
Yeah, I was kind of out of place there with one of those.
That's all right.
A lot of purple hair in the crowd.
Never out of place with a ruffian shirt on. Never.
That's right.
Well, what do you think, man?
Yeah.
Party?
Huh?
You think about the America Party? You think that's the way to go?
Well, it's not the way to go, because it's gonna be just like the Reform Party, I guess, when Ross Perot put it in there and everything. I wasn't crazy about Bush, but then they gave us a Clinton.
That's exactly right.
So,
yeah.
But I think it should put some of these Republicans on their toes. You're going to have to get in lockstep, and you're going to have to come to the front, because Democrats don't never waver from their party.
Yeah.
It's very far and few between. Where Republicans, it's like herding cats. They're just going to go this direction, that direction, and everything else. And it's like, well, I'm going to take my ball and go home, and then we're going to lose the vote, and then the Democrats are going to take over. So, yeah, you're not helping yourself by being stubborn. You need to compromise somewhat and swallow a pill every now and then. But you got to do what's right for the America instead of just your own district.
Yeah, and I think that there's a real tendency to be what I would call single issue voters, and it feels like Elon Musk has slipped into single issue territory, where they can't see why sometimes you've got to have the totality picture. You got to have the big picture. You got to see more than just the one thing you care about up front. You can have passion points, but you still got to be able to see. You got to have a statesman-like view once in a while. And I feel like somehow or another, he's lost his statesman-like view.
And it goes to show you that how much power a gazillionaire has, because he can basically single-handedly change the politics in the United States by just, with the apple cart being as evenly balanced as it is, it doesn't take much to go either way.
No, it isn't. And there's talk about whether he's on track to become the first trillionaire in history, and I don't know. All I know is man's got money like Stark Industries from the Marvel. He could be Iron Man, and we wouldn't even know it.
Yeah, I mean, I like him and everything, but it's just they're going to have to kiss up to him. Maybe, I don't know, but sometimes you got to swallow your pride.
Well, I just saw like a few minutes ago where Ron DeSantis called on him to sort of slow down and to focus himself on two things. He said, if you want to really change things, He said you could put all your effort into getting a balanced budget and term limits for Congress, and you would change everything instead of going for a whole new party and trying to change the leadership.
Yeah, and that's what we need. We need to have a reform in the Republican Party, because, like I say, everybody's got their agenda, and one thing about Phil is, before I go here, wife's having another heart surgery tomorrow.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. No, it's an ablation, so it's non-invasive, minimal invasive,
All right.
and she's getting what they call a amulet put in, which blocks the right atrium appendage everybody has. It's kind of to keep from blood clots forming when people have AFib.
All right. This is a day surgery, and she'll go in and have it done and come home.
We'll probably be overnight.
All right. Well, I got about 15 seconds for the music, so let me pray for her right now. Lord God, we thank you for Jeff. We thank you for his time in this show and being part of the Rightside family. We pray for his sweet wife, God, that you would care for her in every way, that it would be perfect. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, brother.
I appreciate everybody's prayers, and I know it's getting monotonous every now and then.
Nope.
Hopefully this will be the last time.
Nope. You're part of the family, dude. We take care of each other. Listen, man, got to go. Be safe on the road, all right?
Thank you, Phil. Have a good one.
See you, buddy. All right. And there's the music. So, like I say, always do not forget there's more of us than there are of them. God's still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.